Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might include it in our role-playing campaigns. With me, as ever, back again we're now, I was trying to work it out before we came on recording, we're about halfway through season 4.
No, we only just started season 4.
No, we've got some in the bank. I think we're in double digits by the time this episode comes out.
This is ridiculous.
I know. With me for the mid-season episode is my co-host Hamilton. Hamilton, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I've been back in Curse of Strahd.
Yes,
which has been fun.
Mm-hmm.
I did a Gen Z D&D session notes earlier today on Twitter, which I think was silly because I just couldn't. Which is like they were well sus, and I was like, I don't know. It's worth it. I won't repeat the whole thing, but I'll try and say it in the way that I said it, right?
Yeah.
And then you tell me if you could understand what part of Curse of Strahd I am talking about. Here's a little game show.
Oh my god, okay.
Yeah, all right.
You know Strahd quite well, but it's been a little while. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
So we in Strarsville Light, and this bro been hanging with his Winter Soldier type friend, super sus. We heading to his party though anyways, but then this Tory type invites us to their trussed up manor to see if we kill this bro. But we're not down for this, Tory infighting. Yet, we may stop the sus bro, but not for you. Then head to festival. Vibers all Glasto meets Wickers man. Then bro kills guy. Tory type turns up to start revolution. Sus bro points at us. All town on us like, time to burn this down. So battle gets soups heavy. Party split like bad Hollandaise. Whiz kids are spell slinging up north alone. Whilst cleric does a prayer style thirst trap for some townies. Fighter is vibing, running through guards. Turns out druid can rage. What? And then, but then the sus bro, well, they vibe harder. Big Wiz has to eject but get some hurts in, whilst Little Wiz death drops off stage. Tori has sus powers and her simps be shitting the bed with the sus bro simps. There's little chirping as we leave the town.
Wow. A mic drop.
Do you have any clue what I said?
I think the town you're referring to is Vallaki.
Yeah, which is Strarsville Light.
The festival you're talking about is Festival of the Sun.
Yes!
The Winter Soldier, I can't remember their name of the hand, but there's the person with the arm.
Yeah,
who's like the dog's body. And
yes.
Sus bro. There's several people. That's why I'm trying not to spoil
the
it.
Guy who's the Baron, who's mates with the Winter Soldier type.
The problem is, when you say sus bro, I'm like, that could be any number of people in Strahd.
Yeah. Do you know who Tory type is with the trussed up manor? It's the other one that wants the Baron dead.
Vaguely. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Factor,
yes.
Yeah, so she invited us round to her house.
Yes, she's the city watch person. Yeah, Fiona Factor, yes.
Yeah, I was like, Fiona. I could see Fiona playing this person.
It's me.
I was just being silly because I saw a Gen Z version of Harry Potter's intro, which was hilarious. Have you seen that?
I've heard of it.
Oh, so good. So it just made me, I was like, I want to have a go at this. So
that's awesome. Do them from now on, and then I'll see if I can guess where you are in Curse of Strahd, because then it means I'm not spoiling it for you because you already know where you are.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. Well, I can tell you, Hamilton, what I've been up to.
Yes. What did you do? You did something really exciting.
I did do something exciting. So we are currently on a hiatus from our high level 20 campaign because I think I said this last time, the final session is going to happen in person. We've got a date for it, but it's in, at time of recording, September, which is like ages away.
Only a month away. It's like going to happen so quickly.
Oh, but it's ages away. It's at least like 6 weeks away or something. Like it's mid-September. We've got a whole weekend plan. We're going to go to do the big fight and we'll do the epilogue. It's all going to be in person. Great. But as a result, we obviously have some days free. So I suggested, why don't we do some one-shots? And they was like, yeah, that sounds good. And I was like, why don't I run a one-shot from the Radiant Citadel sourcebook? So I'm running for them the final one in the back of it, which I believe is called Orchids of the Invisible Mountain. And the reason why I picked that one is because it is
Gothic.
High level. Oh, yeah. But it's not actually that Gothic, but it's also high level. Because I think the issue is when I always start a book, at the beginning, it's always going to be the earlier levels and stuff like that. And they're really, really fun, but there's not much you can do it. And we've played level 20 now. We've been high level for like the last year or so. So I was like, right, we're going to do level 14. It was very exciting because, they were hitting these monsters in an encounter and they weren't dying. They were like, oh no! And I was having great fun with teleporting and frightening conditions and stuff like that. And yeah, it was super fun. They went all out in trying to like break the game because I said, it was my rule. I said, like, it's level 14. As long as you know what your characters do, you can be any kind of character anything, because obviously it's
Yeah.
it's a multiverse, etc. So they were like, oh my god. So of course we've got constructs that can fly.
Oh, Fiona.
We've got a rune knight. We've got a construct that is a warforged. Sorry, that is as many levels and different things as possible. And I was like, that's cool, but you got to know what you're doing. And we've got a monk that can just run around things, etc. But I still managed to hit them quite a bit. So I
still managed to kill them all.
I still managed to hurt them. But yeah, it's really good. I actually really enjoyed reading through that one shot and taking stuff like that and describing it to them, and actually taking some of the images from the D&D Beyond stuff and sharing it in the chat. And I did a whole bit at the beginning talking to them about what the Radiant Citadel is, showing them that pixelated art, describing it, stuff like that. And they were like, oh, it's really cool. And then I said, but that's not where this adventure is held.
This is the really cool place that you stand in 5 seconds and we're off. Bye.
But Hamilton, that's not what we're talking about today. We're not talking about our individual campaigns at all. What are we talking about today? What is our topic of choice?
Our topic is we're doing one of our creation episodes. Let's create a dungeon.
Exactly.
So we're looking at chapter 5 of the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yes.
Which is from Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Really? Yeah. It's an interesting one because there's also this appendix as well, which we'll also be using a little bit later on in the episode, which is how you would randomly generate dungeons anyway. To start us off, Hamilton, have you ever created a dungeon completely from scratch?
I have created maps. I've created environments. I don't know. The biggest one I made was a 333 tile by 333 tile map, which was for the Mausoleum of Cronepsis when I did a one shot I talked about a year ago. And I wanted to make it, and I made this Dark Souls, multi-leveled, all temples, all crypts and stuff like that. So you could go into crypts, and they each had a main thoroughfare and a towery thing. But I wouldn't call. I don't know. It was probably the closest I came to a dungeon because they each had rooms and traps and stuff like that. But it was more like someone would probably buff their nose and say that's actually an adventure map, but not a dungeon because it's not underground. But it had locations and stuff, and I had monsters and things to it. Yeah, so I guess it is kind of a dungeon. What about yourself?
Yeah, you've definitely got more experience than me. The only thing I've created, and we've done this before on this podcast, I've created a town from scratch using the same chapter. So in Chapter 5, Adventure Environments, it talks about 3 specific kinds of places. It talks about dungeons, it talks about the wilderness, and it talks about urban settings. And we use this settlement rules and sort of tweaked it a little bit to create both a starting point, so building out, and then building top down as well for an urban or a world, as it were. But I've actually never created a dungeon, and I actually sat here and I thought to myself, how often have I been in a dungeon in any of my campaigns? And I have been in them, but I just thought to myself, actually, I don't remember the last time I was in it. Like you were saying, I didn't consider it a dungeon. I just considered it as we're going on this, and we're going to this town. Oh, it happens to be underground. Okay, we're going into this temple. Okay, we're going into this basement. We're going da-da-da-da. Yeah, so I was like, oh, actually, I don't have any experience in creating this at all. So I'm actually quite keen and excited to try it out.
You looked at Dungeons of the Mad Mage, though, didn't you, recently?
And that's a very interesting one to point out. So that one is a multi-level dungeon, over 20 levels, and they're all different. They're not all complete levels. They're all sort of in between, and to get to them, you have to go somewhere else. And so that's the thing. If you were going to make, that feels like jumping in the deep end, making a multi-level dungeon that all lines up and stuff like that, and you can only get through with teleports and all that sort of thing.
It's like Metroidvania, isn't it? It's like a Metroidvania sort of thing where you have to go along, collect items to then be able to get to the another level sort of thing.
Exactly. And like exactly what you said before, it felt really to me like an adventure map, because you might only explore 10% of it.
Yeah.
And then there'd be Skullport, and then you'd be back up to the Yawning Portal. You might go down, and then you go to the level which is in space, So there's all these different things you could do. But I think today we're just looking at how to create your basic underground dungeon, essentially. And yeah, I'm excited by this because I hadn't considered it. And yeah, we're just going to have a go, essentially.
I'm kind of excited that if this goes well, I might make this the dungeon in my pirate board game, because I am yet to make the dungeon. I was just going to use a variation of one that's in the book, but I've got a thinking that exclusive, whatever that means. If it can work, I'll probably make it work. I can make anything work. Then I might make this a dungeon for that. So if you're listening, pirates, don't listen.
Don't listen now.
Don't listen now.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we have this in mind that we're going to try and build something that fits into your setting with pirates and stuff like that?
That was a thought that came to me.
But it might help us flavour it a little bit rather than starting from random. So we're going to look at the beginning bit, so like building a dungeon. So when you set out to create a dungeon, think about distinctive qualities. So, this is where it sort of breaks it down into sort of 4 big bits. It's like its location, its creator, its purpose, and its history. And then it talks about inhabitants and factions stuff, which we can sort of talk about in a second. So I guess we'll start this. Again, we're going to keep that pirate theme in mind. So first of all, we start about locations. There's 2 location tables, which sort of determines the locale of your dungeon.
Okay.
Now, there's 2 tables. There's like a normal version, or there's the exotic version, or basically an unusual place you want a dungeon. So, Hamilton, you get the choice first. Do you want it to be in the normal table, or do you want it to be in the super cool, interesting table?
What do you think? What do you think?
Well, now I'll put it like that. So for the exotic location table, please roll for me a D20. Let me know what you get.
Well, can we roll both?
Of course we can roll both. So so on the first table...
Boring table.
The boring table. It's a D100. So roll that one first, and D100 first, and let me know what you get.
That is a 79.
79. Oh, so this one is on a mountain peak. That dungeon is on a mountain peak.
Okay, right. And then a D20.
Mm-hmm. For the exotic location.
Is 18.
18. Ooh. So this dungeon's also on the back of a gargantuan living creature.
Which is on the top of a mountain. Yes.
Or you could even have the mountain on top of a gargantuan creature.
Oh, the gargantuan creature is a mountain, like in the Pokemon's movie.
Exactly that.
Cool.
So you could have it like a big sea turtle, perhaps, going through the sea.
They think it's an island.
Yes.
With a big mountain top, but actually it's a huge kraken with a mountain on the back of it.
I love that. Yeah, something that, it's just constantly moving and shifting.
Yeah.
You think it's like an inactive volcano or something, but actually it's not.
Oh, I love it. So I'm going to write those down we're writing these down as we go. So we have got a mountain.
On a mountain peak, yes.
Mountain peak on the back of a huge kraken.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So a dungeon reflects its creator. So details about the dungeon's setting brings it to life as a result. So you have to think like, who would build a dungeon like this? So for this one, there's so many tables in this one. So you've got individual dungeon creator, or you could have cults and religious groups. And then from that, you can have an alignment or a class of that particular creator or group. Do you think it's an individual that has this dungeon, or is it a cult or religious group?
I like the idea that maybe the dungeon creator is an individual, but there are a cult or religious group that now inhabits it. I kind of like that.
Perfect. So. Yeah, that's perfect, because that works in later with the faction thing. You just want to roll all your dice. I love that.
I do. Of course I do.
So the individual creator, roll a d20 for me and let me know what you get.
Wait, am I rolling all these dice?
I'll roll some in a second. Don't worry, I'll roll some in a second.
A natural 1.
Oh, but Hamilton, you know what's that? You know what that is? It's a beholder. It's a beholder. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Okay, cool. Awesome. We need to find a name for that funky beholder, by the way.
We do. We can. There's a beholder funky name table somewhere.
There is, exactly.
I've just seen it now. Though the cult and religious group is also on the dungeon creator table, but we'll roll for them anyway. Why not? So yeah, another D20 for me, please.
Another D20. Okay. Why do I keep misplacing it? What? I've gone from natural 1 to a natural 20.
Ooh, so this particular religious group, they are worshippers of a neutral deity.
Okay.
So that could be quite good. Again, like you don't have to tie it to a particular pantheon or anything like that. You could just be like, I can do it like this as well.
That's cool. So it's a beholder.
Yep.
Big eye with like lots of squiggly lines off and a big mouth.
Oh, you're drawing the beholder.
Yeah, it's a really shit beholder. It's not my best beholder.
Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly.
What?
A neutral
deity.
Okay.
Optionally, you can also roll for the alignment and the class of it as well. I think with the beholder, you can choose as you want. But yeah, it goes again. They're both D20s for both of these things.
Yeah. Do you want to roll for the alignment?
Oh, go on then.
Yeah, go on.
Go on then.
So this is just one NPC, or is this just all the NPCs?
That's a natural 20. It's chaotic evil, Hamilton.
Yes! Yes, it is. Yes, it is. NPC equals chaos evil.
I guess the NPC alignment table, you could put that as a big sort of like, maybe it is what this place has seemed like. Maybe it's like those law, like a Serac and the Tomb of Annihilation, that sort of idea, that old Tomb of Horrors, it's like, oh, it's an evil place, but maybe it's something else.
It's a beholder who created it, who was in awe of a neutral entity. The beholder was killed by a bunch of chaotic evil people that took over from the neutral deity because they didn't like the neutrality. They wanted it to be
chaotic.
Exactly.
So I'll roll for an NPC class. Let's have a see. That is an 18 on the die.
Wizard.
Chaotic evil wizards.
I need to do some spells going off.
Pew, 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 pew.
Pew, pew, pew. 3, because it's magic missile.
Magic missile.
And I'll do a little wizard's hat.
So great. So we've got an idea of who the creator is and like a little bit of history there. The next sort of step is the dungeon's purpose.
Right.
In the case of a natural cavern, a dungeon is crafted and inhabited for a specific purpose that influences its design and features. Again, very interesting. Again, when we talked about beholders before, their lairs are going to be very different to like the lairs of, say, a dragon or something, because obviously they don't need certain things.
You roll for it.
I'll roll for this one. It's a D20. Okay. So I've got 2. It's a lair on this one.
Okay.
So what I'd say as well, I think you could roll several times. So if you think of Dungeon of Mad Mage, for example, Undermountain, that is a mixture of a maze, is also planar gates, it's a treasure vault as well, so you could have several things. So I'm going to roll again. So we've got lair for 1, and then I'll roll again. I got a 14. It's a stronghold as well.
Well, maybe it was a lair originally for the beholder, and then became a stronghold for this chaotic evil beast.
Nice. Love that. And underneath this table as well, it talks a little bit more in detail about it. So a lair is a place where monsters live, obviously. Typical lairs include ruins and caves. So maybe, again, caves works well with your pirate theme. Stronghold Dungeon provides a secure base of operations for villains and monsters. It is usually ruled by a powerful individual, such as a wizard, vampire, or dragon, and it is larger or more complex than a simple lair. So I like the idea that maybe they've grafted on some things, and it's not just the natural lair that we've sort of, like the ruins, or there is parts of it still ruins and caves, but some of it's been bolted on.
Okay, I like that. That's cool.
Cool.
I've drawn a lair and a stronghold.
Nice. The final bit is history. So in most cases, the original architects of the dungeon are long gone, as we've sort of just got rid of that. And the question of what happened to them can help shape the dungeon's current state. So do you want to roll a D20 for me?
For this one. Let me roll.
So this is for a key event in the dungeon's history.
Key event. It's a 17.
A 17 is the original creator is still in control.
Oh, there's the twist.
Oh, I love that.
That the beholder is actually somehow still in control. Maybe the beholder had it as this like neutral deity, sort of like it made it for this neutral deity as like a lair for themselves and was all in like awe of this deity. And then they had enough of that. And so they wanted to get rid of all the cultists that are all, and they thought, what's the best way to do this is to bring some of my new cultists in and hired chaotic evil people to come in and take it over or something like that. I don't know.
Perfect.
We'll figure it out.
Well, I think it leads it up quite nicely because I think a lot of the times we think, oh, well, like you said, the creator has gone from this realm. Like you think of like a Serac in Tomb of Horrors, they are still technically there in some form, but only come back when certain things are triggered. So yeah, I think always having the creator there is always good.
Or the beholder is maybe not in control, like they are in control of the beholder. So they've not killed the beholder, but the chaotic evil people have like warped the brain of the beholder and are actually in control of it and using as like the big boss. That's quite cool
because as we know, beholders, they get very paranoid. They like to be in control and stuff. So that you can imagine if you break that control in some way, will the beholder be on your side?
Maybe it's like demonically hosted because it's chaotic evil. So maybe some sort of like abyssal power has overtaken the beholder. So you've got like an abyssal beholder.
Or what are they called? The undead beholders, like the really horrible ones.
Yeah.
I think it's Death Tyrant is the one with just skull and like lights around it. So we've got sort of the basic sort of setting up. We've got our basic ideas and stuff. Other things to consider is stuff like dungeon factions. So we've kind of introduced this idea that there are other groups in here that have taken over parts of the cave. It sounds like this particular dungeon is going to be quite complex, maybe different layers, maybe different levels and stuff. again, taking the example of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Undermountain, there are certain levels which have Gith on it, trying to fight back against mind flayers and etc. So it's very easy, the DM's guide says, to think about the dungeon as like just a collection of encounters, and that your adventurers are just kicking door after door down, killing whatever lies beyond. But actually having that idea of having, say, 3 or 4 different groups and think about the flow of power between them and what the status is and stuff like it's something to think about.
A good one is Sunless Citadel, as you said, which is like the kobold. You've got the kobolds who are trying to have got Calcrics. They're trying to create basically a mini deity for them to sort of praise, which will be Calcrics, this white dragon they've got from the egg. And then you've also got Vampy Druid person in the basement. I've forgotten the name.
The main guy behind everything who's really evil.
Yeah, he's really evil, who's been mucking about with stuff.
The tree.
Stealing people from the village. Oakhurst, I think it's called.
Yes, and the daughter and son.
Yes, which is what is the hook. And there's also like goblins and hobgoblins that he's working with. And there's some skellies down there. So there's a few little there's the goblins who are under his control. And so you can work them against them. You can work with the kobolds.
That's actually a really good example. I would highly recommend it, because I know I always keep saying Sunless Citadel rather than Radiant Citadel every time we talk about it. Yeah. But it's true, right? If you look at that adventure, it's 3 levels and it gets smaller as it goes down. And you have different things. Yeah, like you said, they had the kobolds versus I think it's the bugbears, or the goblins. Yeah. And they had that sort of interaction there. But also, they could turn against each other. The key thing to think about is that basically, imagine that all these creatures in this dungeon are intelligent in some way, and they have goals, whether they're short-term survival, that they've been displaced in some way, so they're just trying to make a home here, or they're ambitious because they're trying to take back parts of the dungeon as well. And as a result, that's going to really impact on how they interact with adventurers who just come stumbling in, and they're like, fight, kill, etc. Or can you help us and aid us? And it could be little quest points as well. So I think having a little list of okay, you've got this idea, you've got an idea of what it looks like perhaps, if you've got the themes of like a pirate sort of thing. So maybe you have Tritons, for example, or sea elves or something like that. Sahagin as well. Oh, what a great, you have all different things vying for power perhaps, or vying for status, or just trying to keep themselves to themselves. Maybe even there's a faction that they just try and hide away and they try not to be seen by your adventurers, and so they're constantly hiding.
Yeah. Or they were just there before the layer was made, and they're like deep gnomes, I think is the name.
Yes, deep gnomes, I think they're called. Yeah,
that's it. So like maybe have a faction of those that have been tunneling underground and got a whole city nearby, and they're like, all this crazy shit's going on next door. We don't like it. And maybe they're trying to they found a good ore mining point and they're trying to do that. Or a water source has been cut off, and so to their city, and so they've got disagreements and
So that's a good point. So thinking about the dungeon we've created, so we've got it as a lair and we got it as a stronghold. What other factions would you put in this, Hamilton, specifically? If you were going to think of 2 factions that you wanted to put in.
Maybe there's this cult of this chaotic evil NPCs that maybe you're coming into it at the transition moment. So you've got these 2, you've got neutral deity cult that's sort of dealing. I can't think of a good neutral deity off the top of my head.
Or you just make one up. You just can make one up. Yeah,
just make one up. They are all about some sort of balance. And then this chaotic evil group is trying to come in there and they've taken control. They're trying to summon a demon because, there's something in that. I haven't got a good answer for it. Why? Yeah.
Perfect. That's fine. So you think there's at least 2 big factions fighting for dominance. That's that. I think that's enough to be like that.
We're on the back of a huge kraken. Maybe the kraken, right, has a sort of like a mind, like one of these hive minds. Sort of that when people go in there, they start to maybe these neutral deity is the kraken. Right. Ooh. So people came to this island to worship the kraken that supposedly lived there on this island, thinking it was an island and there was a mystery about a kraken, but it actually is, and it floats around. And then when they get deeper down, there's a hive mind and they're all a part of it. And that's the sort of neutrality bit. But these chaotic evil people want to take control of the mind. And the beholder was there.
I would take it. So going along with your Kraken idea and mines, that speaks Mind Flayer to me. So this idea that they are trying to protect, and maybe they're trying to be more neutral, because Mind Flayers then well known to they don't go out all attack. They just bide their time and slowly infiltrate and stuff. So they're not good.
So maybe the beholder comes with the chaotic evil people then. Let's go with that.
Or my players do enslave
beholders.
Yeah.
Okay, well maybe that's it. Maybe the beholder, they use the beholder to dig out their tunneling to get to the hive mind. Oh, I love this. Yes.
Yeah.
They went into space, found a spelljammer, stole an orbi or something like that, made it into a beholder, take it down, and
and start setting their stuff up. And then as it goes back to that whole thing about like the creator's still alive, but maybe that, again, could you accidentally break that control? And then what does the beholder
do then?
So then you have three things there. So
and maybe the chaotic evil NPC is what's like
wizards,
wizards are like trying to gain control of this mind because they use the intelligence power to power some huge spell, or they want to control the Kraken.
Maybe they're like, oh, this whole place, this Kraken is that's what they want to control, and not realizing that there's actually more.
There's a whole load
of mind flayers. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
There you go. Moving on then, from factions we go to ecology. So an inhabited dungeon has its own ecosystem. Creatures that live there need to eat, drink, breathe, sleep, just as the creatures in the wilderness do. Things to think about for this is that just have a think about the monsters you want to populate in your dungeon. So we've talked about it a little bit here. So it's like certain points when you're creating a dungeon, there might be points where you're like, oh, well, the adventurers might want to set up an ambush at that point. If there's like water nearby, that's probably where they're going to make camp for like fresh water. It also talks about like if there's locked doors or doors that are hard to open that can restrict movements of certain creatures that don't have, say, hands or opposable thumbs. People might go, how do creatures move about from place to place? So having a think about like, okay, I want this certain creature, it can go in certain areas, and I quite like that. I think about like, how did this creature get here? How did this monster get here? Why is there a clan here, etc. And it makes sense. Certainly in dungeons, like easy ones to go to for this sort of thing. I always think of skeletons and zombies. They're easy to put in places because there's the taint of evil, and it just those people who've been left behind, etc. That's always a good one. But if you're thinking of stuff like it talks about here about sturges and carrion crawlers, if you are counting them constantly, you think, well, how are they surviving? Like, where's their food? Where's that sort of thing? Again, little things to think about. You don't have to think about it too hard, I'd say, but it is kind of important. So like what? Because how is it actually functioning as a space? Because we're at sea in the body of a Kraken. How are people eating? So maybe there is just water naturally, like, when you have like oysters and they've got that like salty water, like bits in, maybe it's got little like pools that have like laked from it, but then also maybe the Kraken has been like digesting and turning water into fresh water, so maybe there are freshwater pools in there. There must be some sort of process that things have been processed in some way, but as a result, I can imagine that that's quite limited in certain places. So that's going to be quite the commodity, unless you've got a druid. Yeah, and it is like a huge mountain peak, so maybe there is like an environment, like when you go up, we're in an underdark bit here, but maybe outside there's a whole island, so there are like trees and just general tropical island, or maybe it's not even tropical, maybe it's like a sort of ice-capped island or something like that, or something that's, or like a North Sea island, I'm imagining now, sort of like an Isle of Skye sort of thing, moors and sort of marshes and stuff. You know what you could do? I hadn't considered this until we started creating this dungeon. So we're doing the dungeon, we usually think about like the inside bit, but now because we've got this mountaintop, if we wanted to at some other point, we can come back to it and do the wilderness set of it and do the outside of it as well. So you can really plan that whole, so like you said, like the outside of it maybe it's full of luscious vegetation that's related to, like, there's lots of seaweed that's washed up, but you can dry it out and you can make, I don't know, rope out of it or a good face mask. Like, you start at the top of this peak and you work your way down, and then you realize there's like an opening out into like a pool, which is much lower. You've gone down loads of levels, but because it's a mountain, you're only just now down at like sea level. After like, you know what, that'd be quite interesting, because again, thinking about the Sunless Citadel, that's the example that you brought, it's a big map at the first level is quite big, and then it gets smaller on the second level, and then finally gets quite small on the third level. You're flipping this around, so that if you're coming from the top of that peak, it's probably going to be quite a small level, and then slowly but surely it's going to widen out, possibly. That'd be quite interesting. Yeah, I think that could be fun, I think. That's quite a cool, different way of looking at it. The final bit in this particular part before we go on to like actually mapping out the dungeon is to consider encounter difficulty. So it says that you might be inclined as a DM to increase the encounter difficulty as the adventurers descend deeper into the dungeon, as a way to keep it challenging and to, for your players to gain levels and to rack up the tension. However, it advises against this because it then just becomes into a meat grinder, essentially. And it's like another fight, another fight, another fight. It says the best approach is to include encounters of varying difficulty throughout, and therefore that contrast between easy and hard encounters, as well as simple and complex encounters, encourages characters to vary their tactics and keep the encounters from being too similar. And also, I think it's interesting when you have, you fight and you have a really hard encounter, you blow all your stuff, and then you see a little group of kobolds coming down, and you're like, oh, but what if they call out more people? And I think it shows players, like, if they've used up all their stuff, like I always use up all my stuff in the first fight, and I'm like, well, I need a long rest now, guys. So I think it actually encourages players to maybe plan a little bit or react to circumstances.
Well, I felt that with Son and Sister, we turn up as like level 1, okay, and we get through and we fight these rats, and we're already screwed,
Oh,
and then
the rats are hard, that first encounter.
Yeah, and so you're like, and you don't see them, so you get a surprise attack, and then you're gonna catch up with Meepo, enter into this, Meepo, and then you enter the kobolds. You're like, so you're going to be mates with them because you're like, I want to have a little sleep if that's okay. And then you're like, I've only been down here for 20 minutes and I already need a rest. And that's what we found. Like we got to the end of the first level and we're like, we need another rest. So we had to like hide in a little cupboard and sleep again. And it's just like, what do we do? It's like, it felt very stupid because I was just like, we've been down here an hour. Can we not just go back to town, have a rest and come back? Because Would you just? I'm literally like 20 minutes away from back where I came. I don't know. It just seems a bit silly in some ways.
I think as a player, maybe the first couple of things you do is probably like camp outside of the Son of the Sister before going in deeper and deeper and clearing out the rooms. Because it does talk about later on in this particular chapter, in the appendix, in the DM's guide, it's about the use of empty rooms and like having an empty room as a safe space for the characters to rest and lock up and stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, you can put something interesting in a room that not all empty rooms can be empty, which I love the idea that you just sprinkle stuff in, like a random magic item or a random hazard perhaps, that they don't realize until they sit down and go, oh no, it's a mold. Fuck. So looking at the general features, and we won't go into too much detail of this particular bit because it gets to a point where it gets very finicky. And I can imagine if you actually are creating one from scratch, it's good to know. But it talks about, in the features section, talks about the wall stuff, different kinds of doors you can have, the difference between a secret door and a concealed door, portcullises,
darkness and light. Air quality,
sounds. It's interesting to think about these sort of things. Like, again, the air quality stuff is like, it makes sense that a dungeon won't be sealed so much because obviously you'll have creatures that are living there. But at the same time, you can make it so that, ways to describe it, it's oppressive, it's stifling. There's hardly any light here, but there's some natural fungi like glowing in the walls, etc., for the light and darkness stuff. And then finally, I think I hadn't considered at all this idea of sound. So this idea, because of it's being enclosed as a dungeon, it helps channel the sound. So any sort of like loud noises, like clanging of hammers or maybe people not stealthing right, it can reverberate around several rooms. And I like that idea of like, again, it does talk about like, if they make a big noise here, then people from other rooms come, but actually describing it and telling and like making it clear to players, like in that environment, like your feet are making a lot of noise.
No, it's so true. And it's like, I said this before when I played Dragon Heist, I had a gunslinger and it just, you can't sneak. It's just like, I then shit. Are you sure? Yes, I shit. Sure? Oh, you fine, right. Everyone hears you because you just fired a gun that's like, it's just so silly. And like spells, like I cast fireball, and blow up a room. That's not going to be quiet, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the sounds of combat in general. But even if you're just talking, if you're having a long rest and you're just chatting away, you're like, are you being quiet about it? Because obviously if the bard is like playing a song of rest, for example, that music's going to go out of the room. Final thing, I know I keep doing this, but like it talks about dungeon hazards. Have you come across these dungeon hazards before, Hamilton?
Yeah, there's a mold in
Son of the Citadel.
Yeah, and there's a mold that comes out in Dragon Heist's final one. You look at a wall. That's where I left my gunslinger, got stuck in a mold. That was it.
Oh, that's so sad. Yeah, so it talks about these sort of natural hazards that would happen in a dungeon over time. So molds, different kinds of brown and yellow mold. You've got green slime and webs. And I think obviously webs are the ones that people will be like, oh, big spider stuff. But I think the mold stuff and slime stuff, I think they're underutilized because I've been burnt quite literally by that
Yes.
brown mold before. This idea that it feeds on warmth and draws the heat from it. So the brown mold says it's immune to fire, and any source of fire brought within 5 feet of it instantly expands outwards in the direction of that fire, covering the square. And it's cold as well, so it has this cold damage thing. But then if you expose it to a cold thing, it's instantly destroyed. So it's like a very little thing that people won't have come across, and you just put it in a dungeon and people are like, oh shit, oh no, like they're just trying to work it out. And so I'd highly recommend putting these in your dungeon.
Like another great one is that we've not talked about, that we both were in together, was White Plume Mountain.
Yes.
That has slime, that has molds, that has every hazard you could
Lava.
ever. Lava. It has it's exploding pustules of molten rock. Not rock, it's molten mud, isn't it? It's like a mud pool that's really hot. And there's an underwater section as well at one point, which we didn't go down that one. We
didn't get that far. Yeah, so I'd highly recommend putting these in, but again, not putting them in like every single room or every second room. So like, I think like the green slime is such an evil thing, this idea of this acid that just comes into contact and takes damage, and you're poisoned, and then it carries on until you wipe it off.
One of my favourite hazards actually is there's 2 really good hazards in White Plume Mountain. One being the metal burner. So when you walk through it, it heats only metal. So if you're wearing metal, it burns your skin. So you have to take all your armour off if you're wearing armour. And you can't carry it because could be fire damage, or you take the fire damage. And then there's another one which is frictionless. So you walk on it and then suddenly you just can't stop yourself. So you're going towards a hole. And so it's like a frictionless thing. So that's I like that one as well. That's
cool. All right, well, let's dive right in. Let's go to the appendix then.
Yeah.
And start creating this dungeon.
Appendix, which one is it?
It's the Appendix A.
Cool. I'm going to map this out. This out as we're doing. I've been writing notes as we go, so we're going to write map.
As you're doing that, this appendix helps quickly generate various dungeons, and it's done in a manner. Basically, you start with you roll a starting area, then you roll how many passages it has and how many doors in that area, and then once you have those initial ones, you start building out from there. And we'll just go along and see how many we can do. This could be like the initial first level, perhaps.
Let's do that.
All right.
Starting area then.
Do you want me to roll for this? It's a D10.
You roll this one.
Okay, a D10. Is a 9, so that is a passage 10 feet wide with a T intersection.
So we've got a passage 10 feet wide. Doesn't say how long it is, so I'm just going to draw a passage, and it has a T section.
So it says, let me read it out from here. So your starting area table produces a chamber or a set of corridors as an entrance to your dungeon. Pick a door or a passageway leading from the start area as the entrance to your dungeon. Okay. So you could do it at the bottom of the T or either one of
they each extend 10 feet. I'm going to say that you enter into a space that's a bit of a longer space. There you go.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's it. Has it got a door on the front? We haven't done like a front door. Is it a cave entrance?
Doors are interesting. So it says whenever a table indicates a door, you roll on the door type to determine its nature, and then what's beyond the door.
Yeah, let's roll door type for the first door.
Roll D20 for me, please.
I rolled a 2.
A 2. It's a wooden door.
So it's just a simple wooden door. There we go. I've drawn a wooden door.
Brilliant. And so, yes, that opens out onto the starting area that we have.
I've just realised that looks a little bit
I am not looking at it.
I will open the door like that. There we go. It's a door.
It's a door.
Door's
fantastic.
open.
Door opens. Fantastic. So the starting door, is it at the bottom of the T? Is that where you put it?
I've done it. So I'm coming from the left going right. And so we're entering, so you're going right, and then the T's go north and south.
Perfect, fantastic.
So let's go left first, because you always turn left in a building.
So it says here in the passages thing, so when generating passages and corridors, roll on the passage table multiple times, extending the length and branches of any open passageway until you arrive at a door or chamber. So this means we could be rolling D20s for ages and then get a chamber on it. Yeah, exactly. So let's roll a couple of times, and then we'll see where we go.
Has it got chamber choices on here? Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So yeah, it does. So if you roll between a 15 and a 19, that's when the chamber comes, and then you roll on the chamber table.
Seems like this makes sense why bloody Dungeons & Dragons is just long corridors all the bloody time. I don't like that. That's stupid. When you build a building, 20% of your space should be circulation. 20%. Should be circulation, not 75%.
I love the idea that you're going to do a one-shot now with a dungeon architect.
I'm sorry. It's not even that. It's like 80%. Because stairs are also circulation, so really, there's the architect of this dungeon is a right.
All these
fool.
Dungeons are going to be fooled.
Not good NIA. That is not good lettable area.
Well, isn't that great? I rolled a 15 straight away, so it goes into a chamber straight away.
Chamber. Thank gosh.
All right, so on a chamber, let me read this. Do you want to roll for me a d20 to see how big the chamber is?
Big the chamber is 12.
12. It's a rectangular chamber that's 30 foot by 40 foot. And then I will roll a d20 to show you how many exits there are in the chamber. I rolled a 3. There are no exits on this chamber.
Right, it's dead end. What's in this chamber?
Okay, so chamber's purpose, so this again is in the appendix, in the stocking a dungeon thing. So we know from before what we rolled, we had a lair and a stronghold. Do you want to roll on the lair one?
I think this is a lair first, isn't it? Oh no, it's probably stronghold because it's the front end of it, right? Lair would be deeper in.
No, that sounds good to me. All right, so if you roll for me, a D100.
Ooh,
yeah, exciting. Yeah.
Here we go. Right.
Yeah, some of these tables are bigger than others.
84.
84, it's a big one. Storage for mundane goods and supplies. Hooray!
Right, we're going to put some shelves in here. We'll put a keg, because there's always kegs.
What I'd say as well, I think you could put in maybe a random trick. So these are basically there are also tables for random traps, and traps I think we'll go into a different episode on that one, but there's also random tricks. So tricks are quirkier and less deadly than traps. Some are effects left behind by the dungeon creators, whilst others are manifests of strange magical energies.
I like that.
For a trick object, roll a d20 for me, please.
Okay, store d20.
Yep.
Right, store. It's a 16.
A 16. Oh, a statue. Fun.
Right.
All right, and then I'm going to roll.
Statue here.
I'm going to roll for the effect, and that's a D100. It's a 22, a low number. Creates a force field is what I rolled. Let's flavour it a little bit then. So you can imagine, would you say this is like a magic item perhaps? Or is it just maybe a defensive thing so that if it gets tripped up that people can't enter the goods place? Perhaps?
Maybe the storage is actually like lots of like water stores, food, everything like that. And when you come in, if you're not an illithid, it's like maybe a statue of like some sort of illithid character, creature. And if you start to take anything from the shelves and you're not, then it trips the force field and it pushes it out and then traps you in like a very small area where you are, like a 10-foot circle around you or something like that or something.
And unless you know the passcodes, but I had to...
exactly.
I love the idea that it's like, again, I'm thinking of like Bill Nye's Davy Jones type like statue with that sort of illithid look to it. That sounds really cool. All right, let's go down the other route then. So the passages table back again.
Okay, am I rolling that again?
Yeah, you roll that one.
What's that again? That's a D20.
It's a D20, yes. So most of the time you're going to be going up and down these appendixes.
12. Continue straight 20 foot, then the passage turn left and continues 10 foot. Okay.
Nice. I will roll next to see where this goes.
If that turns left, or else it would go into my text.
I rolled an 8, so it continues straight for 20 feet. There's a side passage to the left and an additional 10 feet ahead. So that's quite cool that it branches off like that as well.
That is good. Yeah, cool.
That side passage for the left, let's make that into a chamber.
Yeah, let's do it.
I will say as well, there's a passage width table, which sounds really fucking boring, but I guess it helps in a way because it goes from all the way from 5 feet all the way up to 40 feet with rows of pillars down the middle, etc. So you can use that as well.
I'll add some of that flavour in as we go. I'm going to add little little vestibules on the side of this one.
Oh, lovely. All right, can you roll for me a d20 to see what the shape of this chamber is?
It is an 18 octagon.
Octagon, 40 feet by 40 feet.
Right,
and I will roll on the large chamber exits table. 14. This large chamber has 3 exits to it. And each location of each exit is the same wall as the entrance. A wall right at the entrance. And a natural 20, same walls, so it's like 2 round the back.
I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to have to be. I can. I'm going to do them sort of at the straight up across, and then 2 flanking walls on the octagon, if you know what I mean, like the 2 side walls of the octagon. Okay.
Then it talks about exit type, whether it's a door, where then you roll on a door type table or another corridor.
I'm going to say one of those is secret.
Sounds good.
And that is into a secret room that links there, I'm going to say. All right, that's secret. I don't know what's in that secret chamber. We'll figure that out. Okay, what are the other ones?
One that was in the wall right to the entrance, and then there was 2 the same wall as. So you put one as a secret wall. Let me roll these other 2. So one, the wall that's right at the entrance, that is a corridor that's 10 feet long.
Right, that's going to go there.
The one opposite is a door.
Just a door.
Yep, just a door, which I will roll the type of. It's a natural 20. It's a secret door that's barred or locked.
Well, that one's also secret.
Secrets.
Taste the rainbow. Right, so we've got 2 secret doors I've given in this room. That's fine.
Nice.
One right at the other end. So what is in this chamber?
Let's roll.
I think this is a layer chamber, right? Octagon. Yeah.
Oh god, there's sort of the 9 specific types of dungeon, and then there's also a generic dungeon one. So what I'd say is that this one's a lair one, and then the next room will be a generic dungeon chamber. There's also what the state of it is. Like if it's got a tumultuous history, then you want to maybe roll for the condition of it. And there's some contents as well, which we can go into as well. So let me roll for lair. She says scrolling up, because some of these tables are long. Okay, a lair is a d20, which I will roll. It's a 6. So that is a chapel where the lair's inhabitants worship.
Oh, yeah, perfect. All right, we're going to put some columns around here.
Shall I roll for its condition?
Yeah, okay, cool.
All right, another d20. It's a 6 again. Ashes, contents mostly burnt. So that may be a big fight here. And then I'm going to roll for the contents of this chamber. So it's a d100, sorry. Lots of stuff in there.
I'll put like a little altar in the middle.
Okay, I have a 62, which is an obstacle, which means I go to the random obstacles table.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want to roll a d20 for me, please?
Yeah, rolling. It's an 8.
Cave in. Ooh, I like that.
That's going to be where one of the secrets is, I think. All right, I'm going to...
Yeah, perfect. That works out really well. So as you can tell, as we go through it, like there's lots of rolling and stuff like that, because obviously it's randomly generated, but you can really twist and turn it. Now that you've got that sort of backstory in your mind, you can easily make it into anything else, which I absolutely love. Do you, for the other chamber that's not this chapel chamber, the one on the other end, do you want to roll...
The other secret one, yeah.
Whichever there's space for, because I appreciate it. We'll show an image at the end possibly about what it looks like. So I want you to roll me a D100, and this is the General Dungeons Chambers.
Okay, D100. 92.
And 92 is a training or exercise room.
Secret training or exercise room. Yes, it's the cave-in, so it's secret because of the cave-in. So maybe it's got some cool weapons in there.
Ooh, good idea.
Yeah.
Well, and here it talks about what you do for random treasures. We did a whole episode about making magic items and stuff, so that you could put that at the bottom and maybe have like it glinting out slightly, or maybe calling for it if it's got a quirk, perhaps if it's got a magical behavior, calling to people. Maybe like if you're thinking of it, if it's pirate themed, maybe like a cutlass of some sort, or a nice hat, pirate hat. I would also say, we go back to that storage room briefly. Can you roll for me contents again on that? So that is a D100.
12.
So 12. Excellent. So this is a monster, a dominant inhabitant with treasure. So I like the idea, as you're sort of going in, that we have that sort of statue with the force field, but there's also a creature in there that has treasure. So maybe an illithid or maybe one of the thralls has come up to take some stuff out, and it's sort of caught off guard.
I like that. There's a monster in there. Monster.
And he talks about here, again, in the Stocking a Dungeon, that monsters are motivation. So we've talked about like creating like villains and NPCs and stuff, but this idea that powerful creatures that are encountered early in the dungeon sets that exciting tone and forces the adventurers to rely on their wits. So again, that idea, if you sort of turn around and you see a thrall going through stuff rapidly, you don't have much time, because in that particular corridor, you know, you might have to get further in, perhaps. There's no areas to hide behind, perhaps. But also at the same time, as we said, not all monsters are automatically hostile. So maybe the thrall is trying to escape, perhaps, trying to get away in some way, but it's still connected to the elder brain. So lots of things you can do there.
I like this. This is cool.
And yeah, there's a monster motivation table as well. If I roll that, so that's a D20. It's a 19. Seeks wealth. So yeah, so maybe it's on its way out and it's just trying to stuff its pockets full of anything that it can take off.
Okay, so that is actually
Possibly,
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Do we have any other areas that need to be blocked off at all?
Well, we haven't done the opposite room. We need the opposite room, don't we?
Opposite room. All right, so let us roll for that. That is a chamber.
Mm-hmm.
So just a D20 first.
Oh, D20.
Yep.
It's a natural.
Natural 20. Yeah. Okay, it's a trapezoid.
A trapezoid. Okay.
A trapezoid, roughly 40 by 60 feet. I'll roll for chamber exits. It's a 7, so you get one exit. Mm-hmm. This exit is, rolling D20 again, it's a 5. It's on the wall opposite the entrance. And that particular type is another corridor leading away.
Okay, cool. All right.
What purpose? What table do you want? Lair, stronghold, or general?
I think it's still lair where we are.
Lair? All right, roll for me a D20 when you get a moment.
Rolling you a D20. It is an 11.
This huge trapezoid room is a kitchen for food storage and preparation.
Cool.
The current state of this is a 16. The furniture is wrecked but still present. So I like that. Again, and maybe people scaffold through it slightly, but you've still got various cooking implements and stuff. Again, when you get a moment, roll for me a D100 and we'll see what else is in this.
Okay, D100.
Yes, please.
That is a 64.
Ooh, a 64 is a trap. Let's go to traps. All right. Oh, and this is where there's a load of tables. Essentially, when you're doing a trap, it's easiest to start off with the effect and the triggers tables and then decide how damaging this is. So let's go for, if you roll for me, a D6.
D6. 3.
Touched either a doorknob or a statue. So maybe you pick something up, maybe like an item off one of the tables, perhaps, is attached to something, maybe like off a chopping block, perhaps, or something like that. I will roll a D100 for the trap effects. Ooh, so 15. Clanging noises attracts nearby monsters. And then finally a D6 to see how damaging, how severe this trap damage is. It's a 4, so it's dangerous. So I guess, again, this idea that if you're picking, maybe actually the trap itself is not necessarily something mechanical or magical, it's just that there's lots of silverware and pots and pans put in the center, and as you touch it, it all falls down and creates a loud sound, which draws in other monsters or other guards into this kitchen.
Or you touch the silverware and then it attacks you as a flurry of knives, loads of knives attacking you.
Ooh, yeah, so a mixture of maybe magical, was it like enchanted, sword armor? That is just, maybe it is the original chef, which is made out of all these pots and pans, and then because it's clanging together, more monsters and more creatures from this dungeon come up.
Cool. I'm excited by this.
Yeah, so you can see that obviously it's a big sprawling thing now. That corridor going off from that kitchen, that could lead to maybe some stairs that's going down to the next level if it were just starting up that small little bit there.
I'm going to do that now. I'm going to make that stairs, and that's like a secret-y way down to somewhere.
Exactly.
Cool.
And as you can see, we've just literally started putting stuff together and rolling stuff and gone, let's try this or let's try that. It is just literally sitting down and having the time to do it.
I'm going to show you.
Yes, please, see. Oh my God. That's amazing.
It's fun, isn't it?
I mean, you're a very talented drawer anyway. Mine would just be like post-it notes and stuff like that.
I've done it all in the Morky Ball colours, but we will share this and it will be part of our promo.
Promo, absolutely. And the final thing I want to say in the appendix stuff is dungeon dressing. So there are parts of all these tables and stuff. There's so many, like in the stocking a dungeon thing, there's all the tables you could ever want. But the dungeon dressing helps establish the atmosphere of a dungeon, giving clues about its creators or history.
I'll tell you what, 34. Giggling.
Nope.
No.
Nope. Giggling in brackets, faint.
Yeah.
To generate dungeon dressing at random, roll once on each table, so noises, air, and odours. Hamilton, will you do me the honours of rolling a D100 for noises?
Noises. Oh, dear. I'm going to get 34 now, aren't I? No, I'm not. I'm going to get 95.
Tinkling. Now, what could that mean?
I'm going to write that.
I roll for air, which is another D100.
It's just like water dropping. Tinkling,
maybe like those sort of Zen wing chimes or something like that. There's loads of them.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, D100 for air. That is an 84. Clear with mist covering the floor. Perfect, I think, for your pirate thing. I think that's quite good. Last but by no means least, can you roll for odour?
It is an 81.
An 81 is smoky.
Oh, nice. I like that one. That's a good one.
I like that one. I like the ones in between. You've got salty and wet, and then urine is like 96 to 100.
I think I'm going to add a bit of salt in there because we are by the sea.
Yes, that makes sense.
But it's smoky and salty. It's like a really good steak. Smoky and salty. Or like bacon.
It smells like bacon. It's not bacon. And yeah, I mean, I'm just scrolling down. There's like bloody tables like utensils and personal items.
General features like leather boot, leaves and twigs, slime harmless, sticks. General furnishings, a curtain, a bucket, a cask, a couch, a fresco. I'm just going through it like religious articles, mage furnishings.
So this is the thing. Like, again, there's so much you can do to flavour it. But if you get something like I saw earlier, there's like observatory. You might, okay, let's free things that stand out in this room that aren't magical, that aren't treasure. But you know, when you say, oh, there's a chair there.
There's a decanter on the side holding a crucible with a kettle by an hourglass, you know, those sorts of things.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. And people go, and it's not worth anything, but it just does that flavour setting. And so, so much here. I've just seen another one that I saw, a wig. You could put a wig somewhere.
Bodily organs. This is for the container contents.
It feels very much like if you were creating like this room or this dungeon, on The Sims, and you're going through rosebud. I've got enough money to buy some weights, balance and weights. I've got beakers. I've got some bellows.
Text on local flora.
Yeah.
I do love a good book table. D100 book table is always good.
So yeah. Like as you've seen in the last hour or so, we've created a very decent start to a dungeon, I think. And I think you should always start with that little bit at the beginning, like what kind of dungeon do you want to do? Getting all those other things, because maybe even like they'll go in, explore a few rooms and then never come back. They might never find out about this beholder. They might never even encounter an illithid or those chaotic evil wizards, but you have that story in the back of your head. So instantly you can start to flavour it and really narrow it down. I think that whole what kind of dungeon it is, between the sort of 9 types, that helps you go, okay, so it's going to be like this. Like, for example, if it's a temple or shrine, you've got chamber purpose one that really dedicates itself to, okay, there's going to be shrines here. There's going to be certain types of maybe sacrificial vaults, a place that hold sacrifices in, for example, or anything like that.
What I think is great about dungeons, and I think when people say like, oh, do I need to get the DM's guide, is that I think if you're running adventures, you probably don't need it.
No.
As we've said this before, I think like you just need the player's handbook and you don't really need the monsters manual. It's really when you start creating your own things that the Dungeon Master's Guide is really more like the world builder's guide or the homebrewer's guide, isn't it, really, more than the as much as anything. It's the book that opens up, unlocks the freedom and creativity for your own things as much as anything. It is great, but it's not what I thought it was going to be when I picked up, which I thought was going to be like I don't know, it's just, I didn't think it was going to be so much a recreation thing. I thought it was going to be part of it. I thought it was going to be as much about like the lore of D&D and like a world guide for D&D as it is, not so much the do it yourself. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You've just sent me through that the little video of it coming through. That's so bloody cool. Like, I know you've done them before, but I'm like, oh, it's so cool that you've done it whilst we've been talking. So, yeah, there you go. That's how you can create your own dungeon using those randomly generated things. But as we said, it's very important to think about what the purpose is, who the creator is, any factions, that sort of thing. And I know, like, we sort of mentioned it in passing that the trap stuff, we will come back to the traps because there's a whole bloody section on traps, not only just in the DM's guide, but also in Xanathar's guide, because turns out that's a big deal about dungeons, is that they're trapped in some way, which I thought was quite interesting when I was reading that. So
okay, cool.
That sounds good.
I look forward to that.
So Hamilton, when you're not here drawing amazing dungeons that have big F-off kitchens, essentially.
Really massive kitchens and a storage. We basically did a chapel and 2 food-based rooms.
Hey, that's the sort of dungeon I want to be a part of. Where can we find your work? Like, what have you been up to? Where can we find you if you're not on DM's Book Club?
Well, I've talked about this a lot, and I've talked about it for like months and months about this Morkborg thing that I'm doing. It's going to come out. Well, I got the scored version of the first episode yesterday. I could only listen to it today because I had to wait for it to process on Google. I've watched it. I'm very happy. What I think is the time that we're going to be going out is we're going to hold on a lot of things. We're going to do a big release of stuff in September.
How exciting!
And this, and then the Bowies and Spelljammer will probably be starting to be happening at sometimes this comes out. I don't know when it's going to be, but we've got our session 0 on Thursday. Today I was recording. I've already talked about all 4 characters. I'm all super excited about every single one. I've already done like the timetable for every single recording we're going to have. So I'm kind of excited about that. And yeah, we're going to get into space.
Nice. Oh, amazing. I can't wait for that.
And I'm going to Comic-Con with lots of people, which I'm very excited about in October, which will, by the time this comes out, will be sooner than it is now. And so it's a long way away. It's the end of October. So I don't want to be looking forward to the winter that much, but I'm excited. And that's the weekend the clocks go back. So it makes that horrible moment when the clocks... I don't mind this one because they go the right way. So you get an extra hour in bed, don't you?
Fall back.
So it's a good weekend. I just hate the one in March when you lose an hour.
Wait, you wake up and go, and then you go, oh no, I'm late for everything. Yes. Or maybe that's just me. Yeah.
What about, when about, how about, who's about, where's about?
Indeed. Where's about? Aha. So who am I? I am Fiona. What am I? I'm so glad you asked. I'm a podcaster and an improviser and a do-so.
How are you?
How am I? I'm doing okay. I'm excited by this dungeon thing because I actually genuinely didn't know how this was going to go. I'm actually really excited to actually have a go myself and do some terrible drawings with my big stubby fingers.
Where are you?
Where am I? I'm so glad you asked. What am I rolling?
That was the worst one.
I know, it was terrible. What am I rolling? A twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it is going very, very well. I am in the midst of editing. I was working out today, obviously DM book club stuff. We've got a bit of a backlog just now in terms of editing, which is great, but also we've got some stuff in terms of Where as well. We've got some interviews coming out. We've got Paranoia, which is coming out. We've got Idris By coming out. Some solo RPG stuff, and I've been reading a lot more solo RPGs, and I'm going, I need to get back into it and do stuff, but I'm very aware that I've got lots of stuff to edit, so I can't just keep generating content. I need to sort of put it together and stuff, but all that will be coming out very, very soon. And I think that's it. There's nothing else. I've done some live streams recently as well, which have been quite nice. We've done some Shadow of Mog by Leyline Press, which if you don't like your political games, then maybe don't watch that. But also I've done another stream of You Awaken in a Strange Place, which I did for a convention recently, which went very, very well. It was about...
Who was that on? Where was that on?
That was now I'm going to say their name
Never
wrong.
tell me these things. You're never like, I'm doing a live show. Put it on in the background. I'll do that. But you're like, no, I won't do that.
I'll remember. I mean, to be fair, the last couple of weeks, my brain has sort of leaked out of my ear and I keep forgetting stuff. But now it's back in because all the packing is done and dusted. Yeah. But it was for a convention called Our Game Con 2022.
That's the year we're in, yes. You were looking very hard for what year is it?
What year is it? I'm doing my Robbie Williams impression. But it's archaeological gaming, or arco gaming, I think that's how you pronounce it, where essentially it's about gaming and their impact on people and maybe like the history of gaming as well. I mean, they sold it to me as it's like that Lara Croft thing. I don't think it's that at all, essentially. I think it sounds more like sociology of games. Okay. But what do I know? But we did You Awaken in a Strange Place, this idea that obviously it's fully improvised. We've done it before for Where. And the players came up with a huge museum which housed the largest collection of Barbie dolls, with a few other bits and pieces. It was also a sci-fi Scooby-Doo type adventure with mysterious themes and this location. And one of the players played the entity that was previously known as the Tate Modern. So they were just going back from screen to screen.
I freaking love the idea of this. The entity formerly known as the Tate Modern is like the best character I've ever heard of.
I thought you'd like that. Highly recommend it. It's on Twitch just now, but I think it'll be coming out as a bonus episode for one of the other podcasts that was a part of that, and I will share that when that is out. Finally, also, we have an offer code for Third Space Gaming, your friendly local game store in Burnley. If you type in the offer code DMBC into checkout, you get 10% off your first order, and that could be on anything. They are taking pre-orders for Spelljammer. I double-checked. But obviously it'll be out by the time this episode comes out. So you might want to spend it on something else. Maybe this new Dragonlance, or maybe this new, I don't know, Planescape that he's talking about.
So excited. I can't believe how excited I am. Like, I am so excited. It's like I can play it. I know I can play it. I know I can just go and do it. But there's something about them redoing it makes me so excited. And it's weird, isn't it? It doesn't make sense.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of DM's Book Club, and let's create a dungeon. We'll be back same time next week. Well, not us recording, but us putting out podcasts, hopefully. But we will speak to you, hear you next time. See you on the flip side of the dungeon.
See you on the flip side of the dungeon. Bye-bye. Wubba lubba dub dub.
No.